I mean, you take a firm that, let's just say, is doing $10 million a year, and the owner's making $1.5, $2 million, and they think they're killing it. I could take that firm and probably get it to 45%, so squeeze $4.5 million out of it, with increasing the quality of service. I mean, this is the big point. Increase the quality of the cases, increase customer service, decrease the days on hand, increase the average fee. So,
wow. Where do I sign up?
Yeah, say, can you come to my office?
Anytime.
Welcome to this episode of Bourbon of Proof, where we interview those who have been both successful at law and life. And today we have on probably one of the most successful lawyers and entrepreneurs, Steve Mehr.
How's it going?
Absolutely.
It's going well to quite well. And we also have, of course, our esteemed co-host, Mauro Fiore.
Fiore
Legal.
From Fiore Legal, of course. Thank you, Bob. And as he's known in my circle, Steve Mehr is the genius of PI.
Ooh, I like that.
Come on.
The genius
Thank
of
you,
PI.
man. Come on.
So I think we always start off with a pour, and Steve and I talk a lot about gin. Mauro, we drink a lot of gin together.
Yes, we do.
Gin all over the world.
We drink a lot of shit together. I think it should be what we say. We drink a lot.
But I do think I switched whiskey one day and then gin the other. So we're doing a gin episode. I don't know if we've done.
We've done a tequila episode.
That's one.
But we've never done a gin, and I'm a big gin drinker, so I'm good with that.
All right. So in this episode, we're going to cover the story of Steve. He's probably a savant when it comes to the best operator that adds value to a law firm ever. That I think if one person could be the one that runs like a million law firms, it could be Steve. I don't think you and I could ever do something like that. But we'll get into that and just Steve's story. Why the fuck are you still working? That'll be the last question of why the fuck are you still working? So the first one is, this is a barrel-aged gin. Have you ever had Bar Hill?
I have not.
This is from Vermont. So as you know, I love gin. And I like when it's barrel-aged because you get a little higher proof, you get a little more flavor to it. So Steve, you can also pick your tonic. I know we're big into
It's aged in whiskey, in old whiskey barrels?
Yeah, dude.
Very nice.
It's just like that one we had when we were in Austria. This caps just fell straight off. Nope. Let's see this, get a little taste here.
Let's do a splash of tonic.
Do a splash. We'll just do a little taste test. So I'm going to do like a little...
Bob, you really went all out with the fever tree and everything?
Hey, man, that's our Megan, our producer, about that stuff, you know? Or just a
It
tad.
was on my diva list. I said I wouldn't show up without it.
You wouldn't show up without fever tree? I see. That's on your rider.
Just take a tonic, a little splash around.
Yeah, give me this.
There you go.
Perfect.
All right. To the ori-GIN-al episode of gin.
Beautiful.
It's actually
that's
nice.
so nice.
Really good.
That is nice.
That barrel aged is a little sweetness to it, huh?
Yeah.
The barrel aged gin.
No, this comes
It
from
finishes
Vermont.
like a bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's 43%. So it's not, 86. We drink a lot of higher proof gins. Why don't, he's just showcasing the suitcase over here.
I just wanted to see what was in it.
So Steve, you came here when you were young. Can you just walk us through some of your story? Because now you live Newport Coast now.
Yeah.
Right? And super successful. You put Mauro and I to shame on how much success you've had, both monetarily and just like in life achievement. Where'd you come from?
My parents are Persian. They're from Iran. And my dad went to college here in the 60s. Oh. So when my mom was pregnant, we were living in LA, and my dad went back to have me because he wanted me to have dual citizenship. And then came back when I was 6 months old, and around age 3rd grade, we moved to Orange County from LA.
Where in LA were you at?
Arcadia.
Wow, Arcadia.
On Ranch Road.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah, I went to Nokia school
Wow.
down there. Yeah.
Arcadia's nice. Beautiful place.
You know this area? Yeah.
Yeah, it's right down the street. My office is in Monrovia, so.
Okay, yeah, it's right
there.
around the corner.
Right around the corner.
So you've been to Orange County.
Moved to Orange County.
Now that your operations are all there too.
Yes.
So
Where'd you go to law school?
Cal Southern in Riverside, Judge Rich's school.
Oh, man. Do you remember Judge Rich? Do you ever know Judge Rich? Judge Rich was probably 95 years old when he finally retired.
Yeah.
He was a judge. He was a presiding judge in Riverside from like 65 to like 90. And then after that, he retired. And he would do all of the settlement conferences in Riverside at the courthouse.
there's another guy that did that after him. That did the
No,
same.
this was him.
Oh.
He would walk around. He'd have his lunch bag. He had a banana.
It was Judge Rich?
Yeah, he had a
He was like a
banana
maniac. He was
and
just
like a yogurt, and he would shuffle around. He wore like slippers, and he would have 5 settlement conferences going on at once in the
At
hallway
the same time.
At the same time, and he'd settle all the cases. And he had that law school, California Southern.
Wow.
But
But you didn't.
I went night law school. So
Yeah, because before you went into law, you know the story about Steve. The software story. This is fucking awesome.
I had an electronics business, and I got sued by a manufacturer, and I had no idea. I was terrified. It was in federal court, but I had insurance. So they hired me some dopey defense insurance firm. But fast forward a year later, I got a settlement check for $280,000. So they had countersued because I shouldn't have been sued in the first place. And then it settled in my favor.
Wow.
So that was kind of the impetus of me going to law school. I figured in order to be a better business person, I better know what the heck.
Like
What the heck
electronics,
was.
like you would sold electronics?
Consumer electronics. So it was everything from, I was a Macintosh, I don't know if you know Macintosh home stereos, an authorized dealer, Sony, Pioneer, all sorts of stuff.
But before that, weren't you? Somebody tried to get you into the software business.
Yeah, I had a job offer at age 21 from Microsoft, but it was to move to Bellevue, Washington. So I turned that down. And
Yeah, you're not missing nothing in Bellevue. I've been there.
Well, wait till you ask how much they offered Steve and the year that they did.
well, it was 1997, and they offered me $150,000 a year plus stock options.
It's a lot of money in
That's a
1997.
lot of money. I said you were probably
I
a
don't-
teenager, right? I mean, you were.
I was 20.
20.
I was 20. Yeah, I was young.
How do you say no to that? Like, why?
I know my dad's like, you need to take this, and I'm like, no, like this, I can't imagine working for.
But how did you get to that path? Where were you in this moment that they?
So they
that
came to
wanted
me.
you?
They were actually trying to put operating systems in cars, in vehicles, in the bus system, and they thought the future of mobile computing. This is before the iPhone. The future of mobile computing was actually in-car computing. So we put in, I don't know, maybe 70, 80 units for the Department of Transportation in Arizona, got into telematics and cars, and just, I've always been on a tech geek. And through that's, where they made me a job offer and turned it down. But that led to talking to the Consumer Electronics Association and just kind of raising my profile in that industry. So when I went to law school at night while I had that, and I graduated law school in 2001, and wasn't planning on being a lawyer until I sold the electronics business in 2003. So then I got into law.
And since then, for those of you who don't know Steve, he's bought in or grew since you bought into firms to go to the next level. I mean, the highest level.
Yeah, when I got into law, I realized that there's a lot of margin, and most lawyers don't understand that the files are inventory, how to invest in them properly, where the best off-ramp is, to maximize the return for the client, which in contingency maximizes it for the lawyer as well. So through some trial and error, it built quite a few firms early on and sold quite a few firms, and that opened some opportunities. And
Yeah, but I mean, fast forward today, your partner and own Sweet James, the
Yes.
brand, buying other firms, some of our friends' firms that are in other states even. But before then, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably were at a point where you didn't need to fucking work again.
yeah,
I mean, let's be honest.
I've retired twice, but it's
Really?
not. If you retire too early, all your friends are working. The ones that aren't are losers, and you don't want to be hanging out with them anyways. So, and it just wasn't, at some point my wife's like, you got to get out of the house or else we're getting divorced. So,
and how long have you guys been married? Your anniversary's next. Well, we're filming right now in
Next
March,
month.
so it's next month in
yeah,
April.
20 years wedding, 23 and a half years together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then
Two boys.
Sade is who's your wedding
First song, yeah.
Wow. See, I remember some stuff after a few drinks. We drink a lot of gin together. Mauro, can you take us around the world here? Because you have your little suitcase full of pleasures
Yeah.
and treats.
So I think this is where we were in some town in Austria, like off the side of the road, right?
Yep.
So our tour guide, Aquaman.
That was not Aquaman.
It wasn't Aquaman? Oh, no, it was the other guy.
Yeah.
We usually have this tour guide in Europe named Aquaman who takes us everywhere.
He looks like Aquaman.
I think Bob
Yeah.
texted me when you came across this.
I did.
Yeah.
So this guy,
I just had
what
amazing
was the
gin.
kid's name? I can't remember his name.
I'll-
But he was a
I'll-
really nice kid. He was from Switzerland, I think. No, he was Austrian.
He's Austrian. Yeah. But he lived in Costa Rica half the year.
Oh, yeah. he
What
lived
part
in
of
Costa
Austria
Rica.
were you guys?
We were in. What the hell were we? I don't know. We drank. I drank for the whole
No,
time.
we went on the road to Vienna to Salzburg.
Oh,
So we
Vienna
started
to
in
Salzburg, Vienna
and
to
then
Salzburg.
This was on the road. This is through their little wine
Yes,
valley. So,
so
we stopped in the wine valley. Which
So
they
we stopped
distilled
at
gin.
this wine valley, and he took us into this little town, and they had this gin distillery. It happened to be in this little town, and we met the distiller and the wife, and it was amazing. And she was giving us free samples. We were drinking. You know, the free samples game works. You know, you go into this.
That does work.
You go
man.
into this fucking place in the middle of nowhere in Austria,
Right.
And this guy and the guy who makes the shit and his wife, they're giving you free samples. Man, shit, I walked out of there with like 2 bags. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it.
I'm
You
a
know, what I
sucker,
mean,
too. I
you
do the
gotta
same
you
thing.
gotta buy this shit. They can't just go in free samples. Bye, American assholes. We drank everything for free, didn't buy shit. So we bought a bunch of shit from the guy. So we got
awesome.
this. This is like all the gins they make, and like they made. I mean, they had like 30, 40 different variety of gin.
Oh yeah. But
So-
Maximilian was our
Max was our driver.
driver.
So are we going to stare at it, or are we going to
Yeah,
drink
we're
it?
gonna drink.
Okay.
But you
I think
can-
we're gonna
I think
drink
we
the. Let's drink the Lionheart. Because remember the Lionheart?
Yes.
Okay, let me
Bob, tell the Lionheart story while I drink it. While I pour this.
So the distiller is right outside of where they had imprisoned King Richard the Lionheart.
Okay.
Remember that story from
Yep.
like, Robin
the prison
Hood
was right
to-
in the town. You could see the prison was still
so
standing.
what had happened was he had somehow come across when he went from the Crusades, and he pissed off like the Austrians, like did something really like just to make them mad, and they were like, "You better not come back through here, or else we're gonna like fuck
This
you
might
up."
be good with a little club soda. What do you think?
I'll try it. So he tries to, after the Crusades, he tries to sail through the Mediterranean to avoid Austria
Okay.
to go back to England. And he gets shipwrecked. And they land and they try to sneak their way through Austria and they capture him. And they ransom him to because they were poor at the time. Austria was becoming a poor country. So they had to ransom King Richard the Lionheart to get money to Austria. And sure enough, the
This
plot
is-
worked.
So his prison was there?
Yeah,
prison
it
was there.
was in the
That's
town,
where-
and it's up on the hillside, and it was
Oh, God,
pretty
it
cool.
smells so different. Wow.
The aroma's amazing on this one.
Wow, it's almost medicinal.
It's good.
Ooh, still too piney for me. No, but like in Europe, you travel there a bunch. They always just have different stuff.
Yeah. The number one spirit in Europe's gin. So,
And they distill it everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, when we were in Spain last summer, remember there was a gin distillery in that town we were in that was really good. It was called, was it Pau? Pau Gin?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It was PAU, Powell did something because it was like whatever. No, but you travel a lot with your boys. I mean, how are you able to? If you've ever been in Steve's office, he has a giant screen TV that's usually into 4 different quadrants, and one is like showing every single thing in the firm real time, like phone calls to conversions to they're monitoring everything, and the other ones are maybe split into other screens. But it is so dialed in, it is insane. And the other thing I love is he has a board of the entire firm. How many employees do you guys have? Like
Just shy of 500.
500 employees, but he has a board that has every department with their faces color coded, and on the back of it says their hire date, which I learned the other time. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
the hire dates, keep notes, sometimes where they graduated school, just so when we shift departments around, you get the visual and you have access to things immediately. So,
Yeah, I mean, I saw some, I mean, I'm sure it's much more advanced now, but I was friends with Sam.
right.
So I would go down and visit Sam, and Sam had kind of similar, like the stuff they would keep track of, and like they had like, the office didn't have a sheet of paper in the place. It was like an Apple store. You walk through their law firm, there's
Yeah.
nothing. Like no pen. I don't think anyone had a pen. Wasn't allowed.
Difference between back
It
then
was-
is
it
they
was
weren't
nuts.
wearing socks, and now they wear cool sneakers and socks at his firm.
But yeah, it was. That's always been like at the highest level of technology.
Yeah, I think in today's just market, you got to be trying new things and cutting edge on the tech side, or else.
So what are you doing differently? I mean, can you just tell, people that, if you look up Steve, a lot of people talk, but if you look at the actual numbers, because you've seen the data, their settlement value and verdict value has been much higher than these other firms that you see on billboards.
Right.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, we take a litigation first approach. I think that makes the biggest difference. We have 54 attorney-led teams, and more than half of them, I'd probably say 30 of them are litigation teams.
Wow.
So I think that gives a lift across the board, obviously. And I think it's changed a little bit now. It's a little bit more fun because we'll target adjusting units, and we weren't able to do that when we were
What does
smaller.
that mean, targeting adjusting units?
Like we had an issue with a particular carrier that I'm not going to name, but we went through the firm and picked up every file and served one a day and said, we're not going to settle any of them. We're going to take them all to trial, even if they're minimum policy. And it didn't take too long before the regional out of Colorado called and to make peace, and now we resolve most cases for policy. So it's just having the manpower and the gunpowder to be able to do that makes a difference.
But how do you collect that? I mean, how do you know that?
We manage a lot of data. It's turned into, my role is almost data management now. It's not. The people under me manage the people, and the people under them manage the clients and the files. But I think for me and the small circle around me, we just manage a ton of data.
Jesus.
Data's king, man. You know that. Ask Ray. Ask Ray from Even Up.
Dude.
Yeah.
Data's king.
I just know Data, he was one of the guys from Star Trek. He was like the robot.
That's right.
I know you like your sci-fi.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of, it's very nuanced, and I think most operators, as they get larger, they don't stay in the pipeline, and they disconnect. You know, they make a certain amount of money, or they earn a certain amount of freedom, and I understand why, but they just disconnect. So for me, it's obsessive.
How do you get into that data? Because you can't be like so granular. You're looking at, I mean, I see your board when you're in office, but how connected are you to that? I mean, how do you stay connected at a high level and at a granular level?
I think you have to have the ability to go in the weeds and then come out to high altitude. But we have an amazing team around me and amazing partners. But I spend half my week either looking at numbers or manipulating numbers or understanding how they connect.
But practically, what does that look like for all these lawyers that are watching? Like that sounds so foreign to me.
Okay.
I mean, I just want you to break it down. Like what
Well,
numbers
it's like
you
the
fucking
same
look
thing.
at?
Like I talk to my accountant,
Right.
every year. Well, I talk to my accountant a lot, and he says, "Well, can you project for me like this next quarter?" I'm like, I wish I could, man, but it's like
He probably could.
this is not really the business of personal injury.
So
Not really easy to predict
let's
things.
say we hire a lawyer.
I always tell him I could settle a case tomorrow for $10 million, or I could lose $10 million. You know what I mean? I don't know.
But
Fuck,
you could
I
probably
can't predict
if
shit.
you wanted to, Mauro, you could get into a file and you could probably tell what the value of it probably
Yeah.
is on a few benchmarks. But
yeah,
you can't do that on a
but
big
it's
scale.
still
I think to
very
be able
subject
to-
to interpretation.
To be able to scale, you have to have a repeatable process in a system, right? So for us, let's say we hire a new lawyer, and I'm going to make up numbers. Let's say it's pre-litigation, because our litigation lawyers don't handle a lot of files. They handle maybe 40 to 45 files that are actively being litigated. But in pre-litigation, let's say we give someone 100 files, can use a round number. And let's say you agree that the pre-litigation cycle is 10 months. So, and the lawyer's shaking their heads. I'm like, okay, so that means you got to move 10 files per month in order to have a 10-month cycle to move through all 100 files. And then we say, okay, so the average fee in our pre-suit department is, I'm going to make up a number again, let's say $20,000. So that means you got to drive $200,000 a month by moving these 10 files at a $20,000 average fee. And then you just keep drilling down, as I'm giving you guys more and more data points, you keep drilling down on it and drilling down on it. And that way, we manage the entire pipeline, but give them the variance where, yeah, you could have a month where maybe you settle 5 cases, but you're tracking, your pacing is behind pace. So you got to step it up. And if your average fee is behind, or the percentage of policy popped and obtained. So like we track all of this and we provide it to the lawyers. So we give them the guardrails to be able to perform. And what's happened over time is we've had lawyers actually blow the metrics either out of the water or they bow out themselves. They're like, this is not, I can't do this. So, but a lot of it is being extremely transparent with what I think you're expecting of the lawyers, and including in litigation. It's a much longer cycle time. We break our litigation teams into different tiers. So if you're in a tier that handles, let's say, $250 to $1 million cases, we kind of know what the average fee there should be. And if they have 45 files and collectively we all agree on a cycle time, that means, be judicious when you give extensions, make sure, we track all of that data too. And we rank everybody. So, and if you give too many extensions or, you're outside the zone on the cycle time, you'll end up in management's offices. And at some point, we'll just say you're just not a good fit. So,
Wow.
But the numbers are very reasonable numbers to hit. We have this year, well, last year, since it just ended, we had multiple lawyers do over $10 million in fees. which people say that's almost impossible.
As a firm, let alone one
right.
team.
So this year we're probably going to have 5 or 6 lawyers that are going to do over 10 million in fees. So, which are like 2 litigation lawyers and 3 pre-suit lawyers. So it's just understanding the numbers and where your efforts need to be put.
So you talked about what I call spite litigation, where like that carrier was messing around, they effed around, they found out.
Yeah, we've done that 3 times now.
It's the old Larry David did the spite store where he'd open up something next door just out of spite. But
wasn't that with
Joe's Coffee? Mocha Joe.
Mocha Joe's?
Yes, it's Mocha Joe.
Yes, he hated Mocha Joe, but Mocha Joe said, fuck, he threw him out, right?
But that strategy is, well, because you're at such big scale that if you're doing it on so many of their files, they have to react.
Yes, I mean we'll blow out an adjusting units budget for the quarter, or if we, or they'll see the wave that's coming, and some supervisor is going to lose a job, 6 months or 9 months down the road. So, it helps having those pressure points. I mean, I think it really comes down to we're really picky on the type of files we take. We refer out an insane amount of volume, and I think that's where it starts because a lot of operators won't say no. They take everything.
But you guys are very selective. One thing I've learned is you take like moderate plus property damage, high injury motor vehicle accidents, and that's it.
That's it.
I mean,
well, and premise, but the same thing.
He's we only litigate some weird premises cases.
We have referred Mauro some interesting
strange cases that I've settled for
millions.
Millions.
He's done an amazing job.
And it's funny because they're the cases that I know that nobody wanted these cases, but they had some potential, and luckily I worked with Steve, and we've done really good for him.
I know Steve and his firm's been using attorney share through their case management platform, and they track it all. You guys actually have it built into your case management platform where you could send it where you need it to go and track it. So I think that's one thing I learned about them is there's so many people that call their offices for criminal or family or premises.
We don't know what to do with half
PD that's too low. It's like that's what they're doing, and man, it's been cool to see.
You bring up a good point and about integrating attorney share, but it's just not. Let me expand the conversation. So I obsess about integrations, automations, and AI. That's where most of my efforts are. And for integrations, we could use attorney share as an example, or another example would be we run, in California at least, for our California operations, they don't hand over the policy limit information. So we have 85 to 100 case managers at any point. So imagine if they're calling or they're filling out a form on a vendor's website, the demographic info over and over and over again. So what we've done is we've programmed that and integrated it into the software. So it would have taken 30 minutes 1,000 times a month is now a click of a button, and it pushes that data over to the vendor.
And you don't give them the policy limits?
No, we don't. Well, I mean, this is when we're doing the requests for policy limits. Okay. But other vendors, including we use ProofServe to serve lawsuits, but we also integrated it so we can, from within our software, serve a defendant, pick the defendant, serve it, and then they dump the data right back into our software. So there's none of this going off platform, which is a big deal. Every time you go off platform takes time. So,
I love products that are technology products that are lawyer made for lawyers. So Eric is a perfect example. Eric Bogue, he was a lawyer in Colorado, a trial lawyer, and he created ProofServe, which is like the Uber for lawyers, essentially. Right. So he has this hub where they can serve anybody, but it all pushes the data right back into your. So our paralegals can just push a button anywhere to have it served.
Yeah, and they'll integrate it to the software. So I mean, so it was some disruption. I mean, changing who your vendors are, right? Because now we want to work with technologically advanced vendors that integrate into our software.
That's the hardest thing, like chasing what happened, like medical record chasing is freaking terrible.
Correct. But that's where attorney share was huge, making these referrals manually. You're emailing firms all the time. Do you want this case? You don't want this case. Now we could push that information right through the software. So
yeah, and it's been exciting to see. We had a guy on the show, Joe Volta, recently, who was in North Carolina that said he picked up a case off of attorney share, and it was a big case for him in North Carolina, and he was like, I need to meet Steve. Because
is it one of our cases?
Yes, one of your cases
amazing.
that came through.
So,
he said it was like a $280,000 big deal.
Right.
And he was like, dude, this is like, I just had on platform, and he got it. He wanted to meet you. But Steve, you get to pick the next pour from the Weiser Wachow.
Does anyone want more ice in their glass? Let me get
I'll take some too, while you're up.
Let's go with Sweet 16.
There you go. I knew you would take that. Somehow. It was not Sweet James before you came in. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was not.
No.
Completely different. So what, like, whoa,
So
what is this?
funny.
Ginger? This is a ginger one. All right, sweet ginger.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
So funny story.
That's good. I love gin.
My younger one at the time. This is 2019. He was in, I think, second grade. And you fill out a form. What does your mom do? What does your dad do? And mom's a dentist, takes care of us, cooks, cleans, takes us to school. What does dad do? He watches TV on the couch.
This is after you had retired.
This is after I had retired. Yeah. So, obviously that lit a fire under my ass and had some conversations with the family. Like, it's not healthy that your kids perceive you that way. I mean, the older one obviously knew how hard I was working, but the younger one just coming into self-realization, I'm like, yeah, I don't want my kids to perceive me this way.
Because you're in your 40s and like dad's home, and they don't realize how you
41 or
worked
42
your
at the time.
ass off for such a long time, and you could retire.
So then
my 2-year-old, well, not 2, now she's 4. She always tells people, "What does your dad do?" She's like, "He eats a lot." I don't even eat that much.
But yeah, so that kind of drove me to. I'm like, I think I have one more round in me, and to do it one more time, and not build something that could potentially even have an exit. Just kind of build something legacy. So partnered up with James in 2019. We actually launched the brand January 1st, 2020. And then COVID hit, 4 months later, so the timing was horrific. But it allowed us to grab a lot of market share, and I think the name also made a big difference. You look back and you're like, okay, what was I lucky? Where did luck play a role? And I think the name was one of it. At the time, it could have been catastrophic.
But because there's we're in, I mean.
Petros Papadakis named it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he named it. He named James
I didn't know
Sweet
that.
James.
Yeah,
He named James
that,
Sweet
yeah.
James. That was his nickname.
I went to law school with his sister.
I used to listen to
did you?
Petros and Money all the time.
Yeah.
And he used to do the live commercials on the radio.
James would always be on there, yeah.
And do the live commercials, and it would be James Bergener. And then one day,
Called him
Petros
Sweet
started
James.
saying, "My friend Sweet James." And I'm like,
Sweet
that's
James.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because, Petros is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And-
So when James was like, what are we going to call the firm? And I'm like, Sweet James. And he's like, do you think it'll work? And I'm like, I think for every client that won't hire us, there might be
I
one or
heard
two.
Petros invented it.
It's funny, I talked to so many people, and they know it has a stickiness to it. So we were at, so they sponsored the Clippers and some other teams, and we were at the same basketball game where they're playing the Lakers. And Steve came in to where we were in our suite, and there was like fucking Diplo was there, some other people. You know what these fired the LAFD wanted pictures with? Was him and James.
Yeah, James.
From Sweet James.
James is a legit celebrity.
It's crazy.
I hate to be a competitor of yours, but I do sponsor the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes.
Okay, there we go.
I actually want to do one of my goals in life was to sponsor a minor league team and just do the craziest fucking.
Oh, they'll let me
giveaways.
do anything I want. I can
Really?
do any kind of.
I think we used to do
It's
the Quakes.
It's single
Quakes
A.
are good. That's a
single
good
A
goal.
baseball. Who gives a shit?
It is. It's great.
People are just out there. $3 hot dog day, $2 beer day. I mean, it's just minor league baseball and Rancho Cucamonga.
It's weird because you feel like you've won the space once and then you come back in. What the fuck is your goal?
I think I had something to prove this last time.
But what could you possibly have to prove?
And I think at this point, it's just create the best law firm in the world. And just both technologically advanced, raise the game for everybody. As you know, I mentor a ton of firms, ton of kids. So trying to get everybody to raise their game, I think it's healthy for the ecosystem. It's healthy for all of us. So I think, that's kind of where my head is at. I'm not really, I have no aspirations to be, John Morgan size or John Morgan. But I think, short of that, we've I don't have much to prove. And, we're going to
But
do.
you're acquiring firms now, right? You're
If
you're
there's an
buying
opportunity
firms.
in a particular market that makes sense, then
But what are you looking for? Because I had one of our good friends and she's your partner now. I mean, you acquired
we
her.
merged, rolled her in, and she's a partner in the operation.
Because she was
Jen
on the show.
Gore.
Jen.
Yeah, we were
and
talking
she's
about Jen.
awesome. And she's a friend of ours. And
Yeah, friend of the show and friend of ours.
Yeah,
And it was
she's
like
great.
some people were a little surprised by it. But you saw a lot of the social media comments. It was like, yeah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's like you can now make that a more efficient, consumer-friendly product, so the clients will do better. Like,
Clients will do better.
What do you look for whenever you're in this
I think,
opportunity?
look, I think if we talk a year from now, or you talk with her, she'll say we raised her average fee by 50%, which means clients significantly, for the same kind of case, got more money in their pocket. Her days on hand is going to get reduced. And this is, no one ever wants to talk about this, but she had an operation with 40 plus people, and I think right now we're down to 20. And I think we have a lot of capacity for growth. Let me put it that way. So I think people don't quite understand, if you're not living in the data or the numbers, and you're not living in automating and integrations within your software, I think people don't quite understand how inefficient their operations are. So I could take a firm that's, let's say
Now you're talking.
Right. So you take a firm that, let's just say, is doing $10 million a year in fee revenue, and the owner's making $1.5, $2 million, and they think they're killing it. I could take that firm and probably get it to 45% EBITDA, so squeeze $4.5 million out of it, with increasing the quality of service. I mean, this is the big point. Do that while I increase the quality of service. This is not through decreasing the quality. Increase the quality of the cases, increase customer service, decrease the days on hand, increase the average fee. So, so these.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah, say, can you come to my office?
I'll buy you all the Panda Express you can eat.
Perfect.
Promise.
How'd you know what I like?
Orange chicken, 24/7.
Well, Steve, we're going to have you on for part 2 because, I love this stuff. Like, it's when you talk to Steve, it's a different level of a conversation. We're street lawyers at the end of the day, Mauro and I. But
I could never do what you guys do, and I highly respect it. So this is.
But it's crazy that you have these lawyers that came into your firm that you've trained. They're hitting these massive verdicts.
Yeah.
Massive verdicts. And
Well, you know what? I think his office, he's got lots of trial. I know these trial lawyers you have. They're friends of mine. For better or worse, I've been around a long time. I know all these young kids. I've known them since they were young lawyers, new lawyers, and they're good guys and girls too. Don't forget. Fuck my office. I think I have 7 lawyers and 5 of them are women. Right. So it's a female business these days. There's lots of female lawyers. So when I say guys, I mean men and women. But you have these people that are doing well, but you've given them an opportunity that they never would have got at the other firms they were at.
Absolutely.
They were at other firms. I know 2 of them. 2 guys that have gotten good verdicts. They were at other firms that were never going to see a courtroom. Mm-hmm. They were always going to be.
I know some women they hired recently too that are going to have the same opportunity. And one thing that he told
me.
So
you're giving these people opportunities.
They do teams of like somebody that did criminal law and then a civil. Yeah. Like I never heard this one before.
So
it's interesting.
Basically, first identifying a number 2 that's super hungry, that has a chip on their shoulder, right? Those generally will make great trial lawyers if you give them the right opportunity. But we team them up with former DAs that are very comfortable in the courtroom. So, because they're just not going to have, if you let them first chair, the young lawyers are not going to have the kind of experience or comfort zone in the courtroom. And that combination has paid really good dividends. Wow. So, where you kind of have this old school trial attorney, might not be practice specific to what we're doing, but nevertheless, just it reduces everybody's tension and stress in the courtroom.
Yeah,
right?
Trials are trials. I know lots of former criminal defense lawyers that are, like Keith Bruno.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But he was a former criminal defense lawyer.
Now he's one of the best civil trial lawyers, period.
He's just one example of guys.
10-figure verdicts.
Or Steve King. Steve King was a public defender. He tried hundreds of cases as a public defender. Now he's a great civil rights attorney.
Yeah, our managing partner, Bobby, he's slaying it. And he came from the DA's office. Yeah, he did 100 trials.
Civil's a learning experience, but like that comfortability. Like when I tried a case with Sienna Chiato when she was with her office, it was a different. She was so comfortable, but you have to learn the civil stuff because they don't have discovery. It's just like go to trial, whatever. Man, that's interesting. I like that. All right, so Steve, we're at the end of the episode. We're going to do part 2 because I'm fascinated by it. But what was your not bourbon of proof? We could do something. What was your gin of?
What was your drink of proof? I guess.
No, but
gin of proof.
Gin of proof.
I like this last one.
Spirit of proof.
This last one was nice.
Which one was?
And then the first
Sweet
one.
16.
And then the first one's a close second. So
I thought you were going to pick that pink gin over there. That looked really good. The Sweet 16 killed
the
it.
barreled one. But this was nice.
So the Sweet 16, I don't know. It's all written in Australia.
So when we went, this was a family that owns this distillery. And first we went to the chocolate store because, of course, Mauro had to have his chocolate samples.
Yeah.
And
that I don't mind eating and running.
It's good in Austria.
I don't mind a little chocolate and running, but when I was drinking gin cocktails, I had to start buying stuff.
we come to learn that the daughter of the family was owning and operating the chocolate one, and we went down to the distillery and we were talking about the chocolate.
And she spoke really good English. Remember, she was like, she'd go in the summer, she'd go to Boca Raton or something. She spoke perfect English too, the daughter.
It was wild, but they would drop off all the Americans on their Viking cruise,
Right.
down the Danube, whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
they have that like cruise that goes down the Danube River, and it stops there in that town.
I see.
So they would go clear out. It was when they cleared out, it was a ghost town. We're getting like the best. God, it was
Yeah, if
awesome.
you're not there on a cruise day, they have nothing to do.
Yeah.
So they'll cater to you. That's amazing.
We were just by ourselves.
We bought a lot of liquor. We still have in the house. Well, Steve, thank you for coming on the show. If
Thanks for
anybody
having me.
wants to reach out to you, it's just steve@sweetjames.com.
Yeah, Steve at Sweet James or Steve Mehr on Instagram. Those are kind of really, it's my only
We've
source.
so
Very
much to
motivated.
digest
If
in
you
that.
ever want to motivate yourself, follow him on Instagram. He'll get you out of fucking bed. Do something with yourself.
Sorry.
You know.
Well,
Make
Steve,
you run away with
by the way,
chocolates.
like us, he's up at like 4:35 a.m.
Yeah.
The only person you could text that just like we'll get
Yeah.
back to you, talk about
But
stuff.
the other day, Bob texted me like 4:30 in the morning, and I
Got right
text him
back
back
to
in like 1 minute, but he knows I'm awake.
Yeah.
You know, don't text me after 8 because I'm asleep. I go to bed at 8 o'clock. Even in the summer when it's daylight, I don't give a fuck. I close the blinds.
Right.
I go to bed at 8 o'clock every day,
I try to go to bed early. Not that early,
and I wake up I wake up at 4:30.
Yeah.
So you can text me at 4:30. I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm usually up at 5:15. So
At the latest.
yeah.
Sometimes there's shit in your mind that you're working a little early. All right, Steve, thanks for coming on the show. Mauro, you had
Appreciate you.
one last taste over there. I saw what you did.
Cheers.
Great gin. Thanks, guys.